The Thunderlords are a loyalist Adeptus Astartes chapter coming from the 12th founding and being successors of the 13th Legion, known as the Ultramarines. Although somewhat codex divergent, they still abide by many of the Codex Astartes rules and guidelines, including sticking to the 10-company limit. The Thunderlords, though once a very isolationist chapter and only staying in their system and defending it, have recently begun to spread themselves out and help the subsector and even to the Segmentum Pacificus. The Thunderlords, founded in the 34th millennium during the 12th founding, were made to rule over a highly rebellious system known by its capital planet of Yoltova, and they were meant to defend it. Recruiting from all across the systems, each company recruiting from a different planet, although they do intersect frequently in recruitment. For the first century of the chapter's existence, they eliminated several rebellions and chaotic incursions across the system, with the chapter itself suffering very few losses due to the fact that most of those rebellions were poorly funded and relied upon makeshift melee weapons to fight the Astartes. But this made the Astartes of the Thunderlords overconfident in themselves and even, what some would say, pompous. Thus, when they sent nearly 4 companies of the Yoltovan system to assist the Imperium at large, those companies suffered grievous casualties. The 4 companies, led by captain of the 3rd company, Tolandus Endrick, had come across the system of Seriton, which was under siege by an Orc warband led by Warbus Kurgzan Gravecrusher. The 4 companies, which the PDF of the Seriton planets later referred to as the Titans. An uninspired name, but they are guardsmen. And nevertheless, as the Titans and the PDFs of the system fought back against Gravecrusher's war, the Astartes and the PDF fought valiantly and were able to break the siege. While they are not Sons of Dawn, from the way the Thunderlords fought, Dawn would have been proud to call them his honorary sons. But, as stated previously, their victory came at a terrible cost, with the planet of Seriton 11, a forge world that was valuable to the system, being exterminated, and not only that, but as also previously mentioned, horrible casualties for the Imperium. With 2 of the 4 companies being slaughtered during the battle, and millions of PDF and civilians suffering the same fate at the hand of the Green Tide. Upon the company's return, the chapter was shocked by the casualties. They did not expect such losses, and so the chapter master recalled any plans that they had made to send help to the wider Imperium. To prevent further losses, the chapter will now focus purely on defending the Yoltovan system. Centuries after the Pyrrhic victory on Seriton 11, the Thunderlords had finally rebuilt themselves to full chapter strength. Although due to their Codex Astartes divergence, their full strength is at 2000 Astartes. Although one thing since Seriton had changed in the chapter. The chapter has now followed in the footsteps of the Ultramarines in terms of governing. Now, the Yoltovan PDF and Guard regiments have been renamed to the Thunder Praetors and the Thunder Guard, a symbol to show that the Yoltovan system is now completely governed by the chapter, with the planetary governors being replaced by captains of the different companies. Although this caused some suspicion from the likes of the Inquisition and the High Lords, these suspicions were soon shoved aside once the Ultramarines chapter master at the time had claimed that they were simply doing what the Sons of Guilliman do: govern and protect. So, for the next many millennia, the Thunderlords remained in Yoltova, never leaving the system to assist others and staying to govern and protect. Because the system had the strength of 2000 Astartes defending it nearly constantly, the system was later declared and documented into the Imperium's records as a fortress system. Although many attacks were attempted, even a contingent of one of Abaddon's Black Crusades were attempted upon the system, none had made it through, and the system never fell over several millennia. However, the greatest threat to the system did not come from outside, but instead from inside the very chapter itself. And it all started when the galaxy was torn in half. The days following the opening of the Cicatrix Maledictum and the fall of Cadia were ones of madness and rebellion unseen since the time following the Horus Heresy or the times of the War of the False Primarch. Rebellion, insurrection, chaos and genestealer uprisings all running rampant across planets in the Segmentum Pacificus. Yoltova, however, did not suffer such rebellions as many other systems and planets had. There were minor ones, but the Thunderlords swiftly dealt with them, slaughtering the insurrection groups with precision strikes of tactical squadrons and the sheer brute and overwhelming force of the PDF and Adeptus Arbites. During this time, however, the Third Company, led by Captain Frohan Tarvanius, had received a distress call from a nearby planet from the system of Altana. Although the other captains told him not to leave Yoltova, he did not listen to them and instead chose to leave to assist the defenders in need. For that is what the Emperor's Angels of Death do: bring destruction to his enemies and salvation to his subjects. Thus, the 200 Astartes of the Third Company left the Yoltovan system to assist Altana. Once the company arrived in the Altanan system, they began to push back the forces of a Chaos Sorcerer Lord known as Rathnus Tolfane, who had taken the opportunity of the Great Rift to attack and besiege the Altanan system. The Imperial Guard and PDF stationed there had done their best in defending the system, but once the Thunderlords arrived, only the sect of the Adeptus Sororitas Order, known as the Sacred Rose, and a regiment of Armageddon Steel Legionaries were left, along with many local militias. The battle for the system raged for a decade, with casualties on both sides stacking high, but the Imperium was winning. Upon the planet of Hordanus in the Altanan system, Rathnus made himself seen. He would not give up until the system had fallen into the ruinous power's vile clutches. When he landed planetside to fight alongside his soldiers for the first time in the entire siege, Tarvanius, several Terminators and a small force of Sacred Rose Sororitas had met him. There, the two forces clashed, with Tarvanius eventually getting close enough to Rathnus to duel him. Tarvanius using his power axe known as Thunderstrike, and Rathnus using his chaotically corrupted blade known simply as Torment, the two champions fought. Although the sorcerer's psychic abilities gave him the upper hand in the duel, Tarvanius suffered greatly due to the powers of the warp that the sorcerer cast. When a veteran sergeant known as Corrigan Thorn attempted to assist Tarvanius, he was struck by psychic lightning and sent back many meters into the side of a Predator battle tank. With Thunderstrike in the dirt and Tarvanius greatly injured, Tarvanius uttered what he believed to be his last words to the sorcerer. The sorcerer laughed and pulled Torment back to stab the captain, until a scream of utter determination was heard from the south. Tarvanius glanced over, and a sister Repentia was charging towards the sorcerer. The battle after that went rather unexpectedly. The Repentia and Tarvanius both finished off the sorcerer and later thanked each other for the other's help. After 2 more months of fighting, the Imperial forces had made the Chaotic forces retreat, marking yet another victory for the Imperium. While Tarvanius and the Third Company were deemed as heroes and saviors of Altana, the company would not receive the same treatment upon their return home. Upon homecoming, the Third Company was scolded by Chapter Master Haldan Yolmund, who informed him of what the Thunderlords did, and what he did was an act of betrayal and heresy. Tarvanius countered that with telling him that if the Third Company hadn't left Yoltova, then the Altanan system would have fallen to chaos, something the Imperium could not afford. Their argument became heated and later turned bloody when Haldan fired a plasma shot at Tarvanius. It was that one shot that began a half-decade-long conflict that split the chapter in two. Tarvanius, half of the chapter's companies, and half of the PDFs and guard regiments of the Yoltova, versus Yolmund and his forces of the same size. Both great armies in their own right, but both of them were a part of a conflict that would bring destruction to much of Yoltova. The civil war went mostly unsung, as not many remembrances or even official Ministorum scribes were there to record the conflict. What is known about the war is the outcome of it. It ended with Tarvanius slaying Yolmund and becoming chapter master for only a few days. For he, along with the companies that chose his side during the war, decided to break off and create a new crusading chapter of Astartes known as the Thunder Titans. Tarvanius had left his most trusted veteran sergeant, Corrigan Thorn, in charge of the Thunderlords while he was gone, for he knew that Thorn would make the Thunderlords more helpful to the wider Imperium. As a side note, both Tarvanius and Thorn had become latent psykers during the Civil War, Chief Librarian Osiris believing it to be the after effects of their battle with Rathnus. But nevertheless, Tarvanius left and Thorn was left in charge. The Thunderlords, under Thorn, have both accepted the new Primaris Marines and are also assisting the Segmentum Pacificus as a whole. A change of ways, but one that Thorn believes will make the chapter more combat-ready. The Thunderlords today are involved in multiple campaigns across the Segmentum, even occasionally running into the Titans every so often. The organization is fairly Codex compliant, save for a few things. One being that the chapter has 2,000 Astartes as opposed to the standard 1,000. They also have 3 reserve companies, them being the 9th, 8th and the 7th. All 3 of whom are used to defend Yoltova while the other companies are off fighting across the Segmentum. Besides this, the chapter has unusually high amount of assault troops and Thunderhawks at their disposal, but that is usually attributed to the chapter's assault-focused combat doctrine. With the chapter's large numbers, naturally comes larger companies, with each company having 200 Astartes and 2 strike cruisers as opposed to just 1. Besides the expanded numbers, the chapter, as stated earlier, is Codex compliant, but not as strict or adherent to it as their founding chapter, the Ultramarines. Although the Ultramarines and Inquisition have looked down upon the chapter, ranking over the standard 1,000, with the Primaris Marines joining their ranks and the resurrection of Robute Guilliman, it seems that the Inquisition and the Ultramarines will not be bothering the Thunderlords, mostly due to the fact that Guilliman did not care that they went over. Although some of more radical parts of the Inquisition are still finding other ways to get them to reduce their numbers, how they will do such a thing is a mystery to all but them. Recruitment for the Thunderlords is a very straightforward and surprisingly standard with all things considered, with the chapter recruiting from the many worlds of the Yoltovan system, but more commonly the death world of Kortan. The world is stuck within constant thunderstorms and rain. Although it makes the soil of the world quite fertile, it also makes very hardy people who know how to fight and, not surprisingly, swim. Astartes will take recruits from Kortan and the other worlds, begin the trials, which include jogging across an entire continent and arena fighting. If they pass the trials, then they will be sent to get their gene seed implanted. Simple and standard recruitment, which is quite odd for the Thunderlords, but maybe there is just a lack of information on the subject. Although, when they initially began, each company recruited from a different planet in the system, and that seems to have changed. Records are unsure as to whether this change was recent or happened long ago. The Thunderlords, although swearing to stay strictly in Yoltova so many millennia ago, still did send Astartes out to join the Death Watch, the chamber militant arm of the Ordo Xenos of the Inquisition. Thunderlords serving in kill teams, while being a valuable asset, tend to take much of the glory and credit. They also tend to charge directly into melee, and it's because of this that many Thunderlords have died while in service to the Death Watch. Thorn once served in the Death Watch for a time and, as of M42, is only one of 10 Thunderlords to have returned from the Watch. The Thunderlord's combat doctrine consists of a focus on melee and assault tactics, with a strong usage of jump packs, drop pods, storm ravens and thunderhawks to transport their many battle brothers directly into the heart of the battle. Not only this, but they use the Land Raider Crusader and Redeemer patterns frequently as an efficient way to transport their Terminators and Centurion armored brothers, instead of relying upon the Terminator's teleportarium strike tactics. A special and unique unit to the Thunderlords are a unit known as the Stormbreakers. This unit, usually used as honor guards for the chapter master or captains, are a unit of psychically powered Astartes wielding heavy thunderhammers and jetpacks. Using their psychic abilities, they enhance both the effects of the hammer they wield, but also the jump axe, sending them higher into the air while also giving the hammer a stronger, deadlier strike. When a splinter fleet of High Fleet Leviathan attacked a planet in the segmentum, it was said that a single Stormbreaker had launched himself into the air, his entire body crackling with psychic lightning as he then slammed his hammer into the earth, electrocuting and even disintegrating hundreds of termagants. While this is usually passed off as folklore and legend, it does explain the low recruitment rate of the Stormbreakers and the unit's numbers. At the chapter's height, it was said that there were 20 Stormbreakers throughout the chapter. After the Civil War, there were 10. Then, when Tarvin is left with 5, there were only 5 left in the Thunderlords. Besides the Thunderlords excelling at assault tactics, this does not stop them from being superb defenders, as evidenced by their millennia as defenders of Yoltova. Although still utilizing many of the same assault tactics, their skills at ranged are nothing to scoff at. More notably, the scouts of the 10th Company are renowned across several sectors as some of the best at assassinations and overall skill with the sniper rifle. The religious beliefs of the chapter revolve around worship of the Emperor as a god of the sky and the weather, more specifically, thunder. Thus, the chapter temples in the fortress monasteries, where the Astartes gather for daily prayer, given to them by the chapter's capellans, the name they gave to the chaplains of the chapter. The temples are adorned with iconography of the Emperor and Rebute Gilliman, along with many of his saints and former chapter masters, surrounded by lightning bolts and thunder. One notable piece of artwork that covers the ceiling of the temple showcases the Emperor and every fallen chapter master, all raising their hands to fire one giant bolt of lightning towards a single dark being. The dark being is believed to be the representation of the Chaos Gods and perhaps even the arch-traitor Horus Lupercal. While this interpretation raises many eyebrows in the ecclesiarchy, the Thunderlord's psychotic belief in it and the fact that they work well with many Adeptus Sororitas sects and orders shows that they do not have much to worry for. If they do have an issue with it, they are told to bring it up with a Stormbreaker.